Do you suffer from debilitating migraines? You know, that throbbing pain in the front or side of your head that's so severe you're unable to work or do anything other than retreat into a dark and quiet room? Have you had them for years and just haven't found a solution? Call Dr. Elizabeth Ebersol and put an end to your debilitating migraines forever. Or go to her website at www.handmadehealth.com. That's www.handmadehealth.com.
The Brewers remind me of what the Rays are, the Rays are, the great bullpen where they say, man, we can just get 4 innings out of our starters, man. We got an excellent shot at winning. We scratch a couple runs here and there. We're going to be good because, man, the ERAs of those bullpens for both of those two rosters is extraordinary. And they've got big arms and live arms in both of them. So, I know that you know this in playoff baseball, it's about missing bats. In the playoffs. And that's what it's about. It's not about putting the ball in play. Those bullpen guys are the guys that come in with the gas. Those are the ones that generally go deep in the playoffs or win the World Series. And I think both of them got the recipe for that. It's just if they can get enough hitting. If they get enough hitting to offset that, they're going to be a tough out.
Yep. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's going to be a great playoffs. And I hope we don't have shutdowns. I hope we don't have limited seating, all of that stuff. Talking about a guy like Scherzer and Justin Verlanders and guys like that. Last year with the no fans, that affected guys like that in a negative way.
Sure.
To them, it was like a spring training game, with nobody in the stands. They feed off the frenzy of the other side's fans screaming at them, calling them names, throwing stuff at them. They love that. Right? Whereas it was easy on rookies last year, right? Because they're first in, there's no ballpark. It's a lot less pressure. So, we're seeing some of those tables turn. How come all these rookies aren't as good as they were last year? Well, like we said, the analytics between those ears kind of answer a lot of questions.
Well, I'm glad you even brought that up a little bit. I mean, we're playing day baseball games at Dodger Stadium, and you and I both know that can play like Williamsport during the middle of the afternoon because that thick air is gone out of there. And you saw the ball get rocketed out of Chavez Ravine last year because they're playing 2:00 baseball games. I mean, they normally don't play 1 and 2 o'clock there for that reason. And I was like, well, wow, look at this. I mean, so COVID changed a lot of dynamics. You had an extra round that you had to, win last year too, which I always said made the Dodgers solidify that was still truly a world championship, even in the 60-game season last year, because they had to beat somebody else to get to the World Series this time around. They normally wouldn't have had to do. And I think that, now I'm just hoping that we get a little cool weather. You don't want it to be in Minnesota type weather. We don't have to worry about the Twins this year. I just want some nice weather, but I want to have 95% of the people in the stands because you and I both know October 15th baseball is wonderful at night. It's wonderful. The atmosphere, it seems like every pitch you kind of hold your breath a little bit. We missed that last year. I think we had to fight through what we had to fight through. It was better than nothing. But, when you have the best and then you settle for 30% of that, it's kind of hard to kind of recalibrate yourself into that. But this year I'm looking forward to it because maybe we might have a big game in Fenway or a big game in Yankee Stadium this year or, have a big game. We have big games in Dodger Stadium all the time. But it's going to be nice to have that or the Milwaukee fans. I think they're underrated when it comes to, crowd noise. Can you imagine Brewers and, and the Dodgers playing in a day game in the city of beer? That's going to be crazy, and it's not far fetched. That could happen again.
Oh, absolutely. No, and the American League, damn interesting too. I mean, the way Boston took off.
Yeah.
Right. It looked like, oh shoot, they're a lock. What's wrong with the Yankees? I mean, I know there was some talk about making a managerial change in New York.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And look at them sticking to their guns. And look where they've come now. And who's hotter than them right now? I mean, they're playing great baseball. Tampa's consistently been great all year.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's amazing to me to think about their top 3 pitchers this time last year are not there, and they're still got 84 wins. I mean, and their payroll is what, 60 million, 65 million, somewhere in that range, 65 million. I mean, it's what they do from top to bottom, like you talked about with the Braves, is unreal. And they figure out, okay, we're not going to be able to have this veteran re-signed again. Maybe it's better for us to trade him a year or two early than it is to hold on to him where his value is down. And that's what they did with Blake Snell. We all were up in arms going, how do you get rid of him to go to San Diego? I mean, he should have pitched you guys to the 7th game of the World Series last year. What do? Said, all right, we'll go with Glass now. And we'll go with these guys and the colors, and we'll go with these. And now look at them. They're running away with the AL East and looking out their back rearview mirror going, we could not have shot at the best record in the American League. They could be hosting. Now, Major League Baseball front offices probably don't want us here hosting, in Tampa Bay for ratings purposes. But yes, you're going to have to maybe go through Tampa Bay to get to the World Series. And I think people forget they were in the World Series last year. Nobody talks about that.
No, they don't. And look at, here's some other things. Talk about Tampa Bay. Well, we were earlier talking about and extolling the brilliance of the Dodgers and what an amazing team that is, right? And how they can lose a Trevor Bauer and not even miss a beat. Well, guess what? 2 executives came over from the Tampa Rays to Dodgerland. All of a sudden, they're great now, right? Now, I just mentioned a team that's faded a little recently, but Boston Red Sox, where did their general manager come from? Chaim Bloom was formerly the Rays general manager. I mean, they definitely have it going on. They're making a lot of great decisions there and doing it right. And it's neat to see because they're not buying anything.
No, they're not buying
except
anything.
Respect. Except yours and my respect, right?
I cannot, well said. I cannot say anything better than that because, I mean, that's just well done. It's a well-oiled machine right now. One part goes out and another part comes in and it's younger. That's the thing. It's the Rays will never be an old team. They may have one guy that's in their mid-30s, a couple of guys around, but I mean, they're never going to be considered an old veteran team because they're always just mix and match and get rid of those guys. And they came to the table early about paying people early, or and then when you do that second contract, you're paying them for what they've already done. The Rays don't work that way. They just say, you know what, I'm not paying for what you did the last 5 years because I know that by the 5th year of this second contract, you're not going to be anywhere close to what you gave me 9 years ago. And we can't afford that, in that budget. It'd be interesting to see what happens if they do that ceiling and floor salary cap. If they actually have to make the Rays have $100 million payroll. It would be really interesting to see how that philosophy changes then. But I mean, if it's not, there's no reason to fix it. It's working. It's working to a T. So then I'd like to talk a little bit about the Astros. I know they're hated villains around here. I think that for me, though, to me, they're just a tough out. For the last 5 years, they've just been a tough out. we already talked a little bit about the cheating and all that, but last year they weren't. We know they weren't cheating last year, and they were in the 7 games to the Rays. They blew the doors off of Oakland. They played slow pitch softball against Oakland in that first round of the playoffs last year. Correa could be his last year. So he's got something to kind of probably prove in the playoffs, knowing that's going to probably add some more to his contract. They get Bregman back last week, which I think is a professional hitter. I think the most professional hitter maybe in baseball is Michael Brantley. That guy, you put him in the second and 3-hole spot. He can do any. He needs to go opposite field, whatever, big hit, leave the yard. He can do that. And then we're talking about a guy, Mr. Alvarez, that not many people are talking about. And I think you're going to have a guy that's perennially a 35-homer guy and 115 RBIs from the left side. They don't have many holes over there, and they don't have their ace, Justin Verlander, and they're still winning series. It's phenomenal what they've done, too, over the last years. And for what you said, they built it through the draft. You look at a lot of those guys on that roster or guys that are Houston homegrown products that they drafted and developed. Got to have that in this day and age in baseball.
No, absolutely. And we didn't even mention Altuve or, or even guys that are no longer with them. And it's the way they just keep going. It's going to be interesting. Who's going to hire Jeff Luhnow? Who took over that team after Tim Purr destroyed the Astros. He may go down as the worst general managers in baseball history, right? He destroys that team, and Luhnow steps in and turns it into what it is today. And of course, because of the trash can lid banging, is now no longer with the club and been fired. And okay, he's paid his penance. Their manager found a job and is doing a great job in Detroit. And why is somebody not hiring Luhnow?
Joey Cora.
Yeah, why aren't the Mets talking to him right now?
Yeah, so Joey Cora found a job. The only person I don't know if I'll find one is Carlos Beltran. I guess he kind of, he's kind of the guy that's kind of been sitting out the outside in a little bit. Betting the Mets, hire a guy for 2 weeks basically, and then all this comes down, so to kind of catch, in that way. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that one thing about this, we're kind of a forgiving society. If you think about it, even when we've had guys admit or said that they've done something, Mark McGwire admit that he made a mistake. He's coaching, he's coaching. He's bad, I think we kind of forgive and forget a lot on that, So I think he should get a job because obviously he was doing something right on the development side. And if you're the Yankees or if you're somebody like that or the Cardinals, the Cardinals generally always develop their players pretty well. But the Yankees, it seemed like they've had a problem trying to develop their young players to come up through the system a little bit. It's a no-brainer to get somebody like that because you and I both know if you draft 45 players, maybe 5 of those guys are contribute to the big league squad? Maybe.
Right. Well, and to me, the Mets is the perfect place for him right now because look what all the turmoil they've gone through.
Yes.
They hired their former, the Wilpon family hired Brody Van Wagen.
Yeah.
Who is brilliant because he's an agent. But anyways, he didn't get a chance, right? No. He got 1 year.
1 year.
So he didn't get an opportunity to do anything. And I thought he made pretty good moves. Mm-hmm. Well, now they make another move. Well, they just had to let their GM go because he got a DUI and which, don't get me started on that because I'm certain we've never had any baseball people ever drink and drive before.
He's the first one. He's the first one.
But now he's gone. Like you said, you brought up Beltran. They were going that direction. They chickened out because of, he was a cheater.
Right.
Well, you know what? reach out to Jeff Lunau. Maybe have him make an apology statement. I'm sorry I was involved in the cheating scandal. And
I think that if they just would have came out and apologized when it first came out and just ate the crow then, it wouldn't be talking about it now. Now that you really didn't come out and overly do the apology, now you almost you set the time back. So you're going to do the apology and probably be out of baseball another year or two, or, to get back in. If you would have done it this time last year, you had a shot at somebody doing that. I've been hearing a little bit that maybe Cohen has been thinking about trying to get talk to Theo Epstein and getting out of the front office to come back. And is that really a Theo Epstein type situation that he wants to go in with a, let's say, not overzealous owner, but I mean, we definitely got an owner that he's been perturbed for the last couple of weeks. So he's got a little Steinbrenner in him. Does Epstein want that over his shoulder? Not so sure.
Yeah, you know what? I keep waiting to read that, Scott Boras is going to disappear, and because of their situation over the first round pick, Kumar Rocker, and that got pretty contentious from what I understand between ownership and Boras. And right, we're talking about a hedge fund guy who's he's a billionaire with $8
billion. It's $8 billion, I think it is, something of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how that one's going to end up, but wow.
It takes as your dad, it takes a special breed to be able to deal with the kind of owner like that. It really does. I mean, you got to be thick skin on one hand, but you also got to be, who you are at the same time too. And that's where you get the clashes, I think, between two, because billionaire owner says, I want this guy, but the manager is saying, no, he's not a right fit, but we're still going to write Lindor $354 million check anyway, when we needed other things besides that, and now you've got 8 more years of Lindor in that contract. Does that limit what you do in the down the road because you've got lassoed with this contract, but you're not getting the same bang for the buck? I mean, it could take you out of some bidding situations other ways. And then you have to look. Everybody else in that division did something at the trading deadline, and the Mets did not. So that, when you see your guy ahead of you and the guy below you do a lot of moves at the All-Star break and you just stay the same, that's that mental thing. I think that's what happened to the Yankees. They got a charge when they got Rizzo and they got Gallo. All of a sudden, boom, we're free swinging, we're having fun, we're not stressed, our lineup is stretched, 2 more spots in the lineup now. So, you're going now, you're thinking, well, we don't have Brett Gardner in the lineup anymore. That helps. We don't have, Aaron Hicks, but it doesn't mean, say when you got guys that were struggling now or coming off the bench and you've got proven guys in that lineup, and that gives everybody a charge. I mean, it's a big time charge. So
think of the Mets who lose Jacob deGrom, and I'm sure there's a part of you when you lose a guy like that, you think, we're done. What's our chance?
Sure.
Then what if they add Mad Max? Right?
Shea Turner.
Okay. Here we go.
Shea Turner. I mean, but they couldn't add Turner because you were lassoed with the Lindor contract.
No, but they added Baez. I mean, they did that, but they go get that big arm, and all of a sudden, maybe that's the infusion of energy they need to get him here.
And then at the time, DeGrom wasn't considered out for the year anyway. So you're thinking that DeGrom is back with Mad Max. So you're thinking you're going to do some damage in the playoffs. When a 5-game set, you got Mad Max. You got to beat those 2 guys twice. I mean, that's huge. And so mentally, I think that is huge. And then for him to complain about all the swinging and missing, and then he goes and gets the poster child of swing and miss and Baez. I'm going, you can't complain about that. Yeah, no, and then you bring, I didn't, it just seems like me, it's it's been chaotic for Mets for a while. You know, it's not like we can say that they've been run well for a long. I mean, the Wilpons, we know their mess. We know about, you know, how they got robbed, you know, and all that other stuff. The Wilpons, you never knew. And then they go get this big stadium. And if you look at those games on TV, it seems like it's always a quarter filled. You know, it doesn't seem like it's hardly ever sold out or anything. And I'm going, man, y'all are building this outside, making it look so pretty, but on the inside is what's rotten. You know, what's running the program it's rotten, dude. It just is. It's old, decrepit Yankee Stadium. And I just don't know how they can change that unless you get somebody and give them time to change that out. You know, you can't give a general manager 1-2 years. That's not changing that out. They need to change the element because it stinks right now. It really does.
Well, speaking of managers, we haven't talked about the American League Central at all. And the White Sox were expected to be pretty good. So they went out and got a Hall of Fame manager to take over. And wow, look at the job that's being done there.
Isn't he a top 10 manager of all time?
He is absolutely one of the – he's such a class act. You know, he and my father were very close. Mm-hmm. They would literally go out and have drinks after games, managing against each other. And
you don't see that anymore.
No. And Tony told me some of the best stories, but it was he's a firm believer that and you should hear what he says about my father. I'm not even going to go into it.
Well, I was going to say he's kind of like your dad. He likes hitting, running, and creating opportunities. It's the old school mentality, sure. But he's always been that way. He always wanted to have somebody who could steal some bases. No, he didn't. Your dad and him are not very fond of swing and miss guys. You know, I mean, that was one of the problems they always had but I mean, I could see where they're kind of the same mold, you know, your dad and Tony La Russa. I mean, heck, Tony got all that flack at the beginning of the year for not backing his players in the locker room, and they kind of wanted to go south on him. And he said, I don't care. I'm a Hall of Fame baseball coach. I don't have anything to prove.
I win championships. You guys want to win championships? Shut up and play baseball. Right?
I mean, I thought Tony was done coaching. I really did. But, you know, here's another guy. Well, I mean, here's a guy. He had a DUI about this time last year.
Yep.
He was able to find a job. I mean, so, yes, you can get around those kind of things, you know, for that. But I think you just have to get over it early. You know, be remorseful, be sincere about it.
Yep.
You know,
and he apologized. Remember? He came out and said, hey, I'm sorry. I mean, if nobody learned that, remember when all the steroid stuff was coming down? And two great examples are two Texas arms, Andy Pettitte and Roger Clemens.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Andy Pettitte came out, said, I'm sorry. I was a bad boy. I did it. And we all forgave him. And you never heard a thing about it again.
Dude, and they welcome Andy Pettitte back at spring training with open arms.
Absolutely. And people still hate Roger Clemens. And Roger's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I mean,
I've met his kids. Great kids.
When my first job out of college, I was producing a television show. And we were covering Nolan Ryan's retirement party. Okay. So I literally got to basically sneak into Billy Bob's because he rented all of Billy Bob's for his retirement party. Gaylord Perry sneaks me in, right? He just bows up on the people taking tickets. He's with me. Okay. So I go in, I get an interview with the brand new Ranger manager, Kevin Kennedy. So that was kind of a scoop for us. And I asked Roger Clemens. Roger, who was pitching the next day in Toronto, starting a day game, flew in on his own dime to pay respect to Nolan.
Wow.
Yeah, and is pitching the next day at like 1:00 in Toronto. Well, he says, sure, I'll come do your interview. We get outside, and I've got the IFB in. I'm talking to the host of the show, because this was a live show. If somebody drops an F-bomb, it aired. And this was the early 90s. And I tell our host, don't go to break. It's about to rain here, and I've got Roger Clemens.
Right.
He didn't hear don't. He said, Billy Martin just said, go to break, and we'll come back with Roger Clemens. About that time, the thunder goes, and the clouds open up, and the rain's coming down. And I look at Roger, I go, hey, man, I appreciate you doing this, but you don't have to stand out here in the rain. This isn't a national show. It's just a Dallas area show. He's like, Billy, I said, I'll do your show. I'll stay out. He stood in the rain for 2 minutes and did the interview. How many guys would do that?
And that's Roger Clemens at his peak, Roger Clemens.
Exactly. Absolutely. At his peak.
He's pitcher in baseball.
And I get him out, and he's still, no, man, I said I'd do it. I mean, he's a great guy, but so many people don't like him. But if he'd have just come out and said, hey, you know what? I get paid a lot of money to pitch games. When my quad was hurt, I was doing steroids to get back on the field. When my shoulder was barking, I did some steroids to get back out there. I'm sorry, but I did it. And we would all said, we forgive you, Roger. We love you. And I mean, I love the guy anyways, but it's funny. He's got this perception of being this bad guy, and he's really a great guy.
Well, and I mean, I think it's even, he's kind of, Rafi Palmeiro falls in that same ballpark too. He was so adamant and so smug about it,
I did not do steroids, period.
And kept denying it for so long. It's almost like Pete Rose, where it's like, if you just would have just said, hey, I did it, bygones would have been bygones. Well, yeah, maybe we would have had an asterisk by some of your compliments and all that. But, for Palmeiro, I felt bad because his kids were starting to get into their groove at that same time and they kind of get swapped up in his dad's minutiae. You're going to answer these questions and all that. Felt bad about that. I was thinking, man, Rafi, you could have gotten rid of this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great story.
And then to make it worse, when they prove it that he said, I did not knowingly do steroids, period. And he said period again. It's like, come on. It worked last time. Don't do it again.
He doubled down on it. It's like, why? I didn't understand, but I mean, he could have been one of those. I mean, think about Rafi. He's got 500 home runs, he's got 3,000 hits, and he's got a 300 lifetime average. And you really can't put him in that elite group with, the others that are there. Miggy, Cabrera. You can't put him in that same ballpark with him. That's a shame. It's a shame because, I mean, obviously he was going on a Hall of Fame career before all that became chic, dude. Now, how many did he sit around and be a kind of a collector a little bit at the end? Sure. I mean, that happens with a lot of guys. Did the steroids give him that opportunity to do that? Sure. I mean, Billy, I was there when he hit the 500 home run at the old ballpark on that Sunday on Mother's Day. I was there. I mean, I'm ecstatic. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm thinking I'll never be in a ballpark where somebody hits 500 home runs. I can't even talk about that anymore. People look at me and go, "Oh, Rafi Palmeiro, dude, he stuck needles in his butt." It's like you took that moment away from me, Rafi.
The only thing I've never quite been able to wrap my head around is how were he and Will Clark on the same team, how they hated each other in college. Because, I mean, if those two guys would have been amigos, man, there's no telling what they could have accomplished together.
Bobby Thigpen, too. I mean, Bobby Thigpen's on that team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking three guys that have got 10 plus years in the show careers, all of Mississippi State's team. They just could. I think Miami beat them one year, and I think LSU beat them another. But I mean, God, that is a collection. But even then, I mean, when you go back and you do your reunion days in Starkville, I mean, it's always going to be a little tainted because Rafi's there, because they're going to say, why? He had a beautiful left-handed stroke, one of the best strokes, that come through Major League Baseball. I mean, it was effortless. He didn't hit 500-foot home runs. He just hit it over the fence. But he went the other way. I mean, he was a good fielder. I mean, he seemed like he was a decent teammate, during all that time. I don't hear people say that he was a bad teammate. He just got bad advice at White House. That's what happened.
That was bad advice, period.
Oh man, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Billy, this is really our first time to really kind of talk baseball. I mean, I knew you grew up with it and had it all in there. It's been a passion of mine for years. I read constant baseball books. My wife tell you all the time, said, "What baseball book are you reading now?" And I say, it's just, I love the past of baseball, and I know I want to be the old guy, get off my yard type. The game is not the same, but it's still a good game. It's still a good game. And then when October comes around, since we hit a home run with the Field of Dreams, I'm just hoping we can have a really good postseason, because I worry about the labor. I worry about the labor stuff that's going to be hitting us in December and January. Because, I mean, there's some serious issues there that, man, there's going to take some concessions on both sides. And I don't know if the players are ready to give up anything after the last agreement. They feel like they got flashed a little bit on the last agreement. And I think they're gonna dig their spikes in pretty good, I think, on a lot of things. I'm hoping that that's not the case, because baseball needs some momentum. We need some momentum to keep going. You're getting past the Astros disaster a little bit. You're getting past the spin rate. We're not talking about that as much anymore. We need a good postseason. We need a firm agreement, so that way we can say we got 7 years of labor-free baseball. Let's go. What can we do to make it?
Right. With this pandemic and everything else, I mean, nobody's going to have any sympathy for millionaire owners or millionaire players. And, this is the last thing they need to do. I'm still a little irked that they moved the All-Star game from Atlanta.
Right.
Not from taking any side of this issue, but because why take a side? I don't care if it's a conservative spin, a liberal spin, what. This is baseball. The only spin we should be talking about is spin rate.
Right.
And the game.
It's America's game.
Yes, this should be our escape from politics, right? We shouldn't be taking a stance, and it drives me crazy. It's just like, who cares? Let's talk baseball. If I want that stuff, I'll throw the news on.
Yes.
It's on 37 different channels right now that we can.
You can find whatever political angle you want. There's a channel for you, Dick. There's no question, Dick. But yeah, I agree, especially during the summertime. At that point in time, basketball was just wrapping up. So baseball had its exclusive window, that point. And they did so well with that home run hitting contest. I mean, think about that. That was the highest rated show that they've had in eons, for all that. Then you have that. You need to keep balancing them where you keep backing that up. We need to build off that momentum, because we've turned so many people away from the negativity. Because of the negativity, they've hurt themselves. I mean, there's no way of saying it. I mean, even Trevor, even Bauer. That's another thing you don't want. You need to get some of that out to bring the young guys, and then you build that with the Little League World Series. I thought they built some momentum with the Little League World Series this past weekend over there. Having two American teams going after each other, this past weekend. You're not used to seeing that. But they changed the rules of where you get the two best teams to play, which I always thought was the best thing in the first place. If it's Korea against Taiwan, then it's Korea against Taiwan. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It should be the two best teams, but we need that. That's why I keep saying we need to have a really good postseason. We really need to have a good postseason, because I think the water's going to be real choppy come Thanksgiving Day going forward, trying to hammer out something.
Yeah, and I hope a bunch of that stays out of the press as much as possible.
I do too.
Just because it's not good for anyone. I mean, no matter what side you take,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I'm an agent. I should absolutely be taking the player's side. I just don't want it talked about. I just don't want it to harm the game. I just don't want John Q. Public to change the channel because they don't understand it. It's kind of funny if people get angry about some of these guys' salaries. Guys getting $30 million a year to play baseball. That's a joke. They don't seem to get super angry when Arnold Schwarzenegger makes $60 million in 3 months worth of work on a movie, So it's okay for the guy that plays make believe, but not the guy that can hit 97. I mean, that's a God-given ability that you and I can't do, right? Or we would be.
Yeah, exactly.
I can play make believe. I mean, I can put a wig on and go out there and pretend I'm a superhero on TV, but I can't hit 97.
Well,
and
even when your dad got a signing bonus of $1,000 to come play, people were complaining about that back then. How do you give this guy $1,000 just to go play baseball for the Oakland Oaks? It's like, wait a minute.
Even though he had to work in the off season at the penicillin plant or selling cars or both.
I said they're going to complain about sports and money until way after they've thrown dirt on us. So I tell them, but I do think you make an excellent point about not having public point of view on things. Are you testing the waters to see if the public says, oh, well, no, the players are right in this situation, the owners are right in this situation by leaking information out? Why do we need to even hear about this salary cap thing, a floor and a ceiling? It should never became public. Who's leaking that out in the first place on these proposals? It doesn't make sense to me. That's not negotiating. It's not.
Yeah, let's not show the players during the national anthem anymore.
Yeah.
Let's not. Let's just show the flag or the person singing the national anthem, and we won't worry about it.
I'm glad you even brought that up. I was at a football game last Saturday, and they played America Beautiful.
Really?
First, I went, are we not going to do the Star Spangled Banner but they ended up playing it next. So they played both of them. So I'm wondering if that's the left and the right, way of doing things. We're going to play both now.
Wow.
But it took me back for a minute. I went, that's not the Star Spangled Banner. And I mean, believe me, it's nice to hear it, but I was like, are we gotten to the point now that we can't play the Star Spangled Banner by itself for a sporting event?
Yeah, that's been weird.
That's a political tangent we won't talk about.
No.
It did throw me off guard. Well, Millie Martin Jr., I appreciate this. This was fun talking hot stove. I mean, I can do this all day long, but man, we really, really appreciate it, and I enjoy your wisdom, and I know your background with your dad and everything, and so it just gives so much more to it, and obviously you being in the business, Mr. Sports Agent. So, I love your opinions on the baseball side of things, especially on the financials and service time and all. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that kind of stuff, and but yes. Well, hey guys, we appreciate you listening to Balls on the Wall. We hope we'll see you guys next week. Enjoy your Labor Day. Enjoy it. Be safe. Try to stay cool if you can. If you're in Dallas, I thought it's going to be pretty hard this weekend, unless you got a pool somewhere. But yes, we hope to have Nick Harris back this next week, and we hope you guys enjoyed Balls on the Walls, Episode 3. Kenny Matthews, Billy Martin Jr.